Welcome to the Greatness Engineering Show. This is Marae, all the way from Perth, Australia, your host, the Greatness Engineer, as you know me. And this show is where leadership meets purpose, impact, and is, intentionally engineered. Today, we're going to talk about, a very interesting subject, and I hope you're going to like it. So what does it truly mean to serve beyond the limit? We will try to answer this question today. And I have a guest, who is based in the US, and I will be joined later on. I'll bring her on stage. But Courtney will join us. She is a visionary and dynamic leader whose work across, public service, finance, and community empowerment is, shaping meaningful change across, Maryland in the US and beyond. And we will get to know her, get to know the work that she's doing. She has an impressive background, and she will be able to tell us a little bit more when I bring her in. So just, join us. Let us know where you're watching from. If you can, participate, that's also, a good thing for us to bring. If you can bring your insight, ask questions, and really get to know, the value that Courtney bring, in her work and, in the communities, not only in the US, but I think globally as well, as she extend, what she's doing. So stay, be ready, have a pen and a paper, because as usual, there's going to be a lot of learning, a lot of insight. And as I always said, whatever happened here needs to be shared. It doesn't stay here on the Greatness Engineering platform. It has to go, over the world. So thanks, and get ready to have Courtney with you, with us. And I hope you're going to enjoy, this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show, the show that is brought to you by the Dereck Global Leadership Organization.
Real is important is if you just look at the word compassion, when it's behavior, it's something that can be learned, and it is something that we can embody through habits and through our daily action.
To get this idea that if we interject this wisdom intentionally, I call them needle movers. It's the needle mover that's missing.
Don't deprive the world of your greatness. Please. Don't do that anymore. Dare to excel, dare to be sexy, dare to be you, dare to be the best version of yourself. Impact yourself positively, and from there impact others, and you are not alone.
So welcome, Courtney, to the Greatness Engineering Show. It is an absolute pleasure to have you today with us, and I really, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I've been waiting for it for like a week and plus now, and then I know that we're gonna learn so much from you and really see the value, understand the value that you create, not only in the US but also here. But before we dive into your many roles and achievements, I'd love to start, at the human level, who is Courtney, and you know, what are the core values that guide your leadership journey, Courtney?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be on this show. It's an amazing platform, and you're doing, the Lord's work of just basically highlighting people who are doing wonderful things, inspiring people, and also letting everyone know that greatness looks like many different things. And that's the most paramount thing that I can say about what everyone will learn this evening. For me, the one thing I can sit here and say that has always been like at the forefront of my mind is being a voice for the voiceless. I've always known at a very young age that I did not like when people were treated badly or there was inequality, whether it was for myself, whether it was a friend, someone in the neighborhood, locally, globally, in the community, wherever. I just don't like when people are taken advantage of. And sometimes that doesn't always look obvious. That could just be something as simple as not knowing the resources and tools that are available to get what you need in order to be successful for yourself, your family members, or your children. So I am very driven. I'm very led by being passionate about helping others because I know what it's like to have a lot. I know what it's like to have a little, and I think that is what has allowed me to be compassionate for other people in my journey in my life. So, I'm very excited to share my story about how I've overcome adversity and just been able to be a beacon of life to hopefully, people in my community, my state, the country, and worldwide.
Fantastic. And that's what it's all about. And like you said, this platform is really about bringing the greatness that people actually, unleash, all over the world and making sure that, we learn from the what I call the greatness engineers and improve our life, on a daily basis. So we gotta say hi to I can see Janelle is here. Hello, Janelle.
Hi,
Thanks for tuning
Janelle.
in. And thanks for making it possible as well. As Janelle and she exists. They've been a sponsor for this show for many years now, and we're so happy with the collaboration. So just wanted to to start this to ask you. You serve at the intersection of finance, policy, people. And as your professional role as a deputy treasurer, how do you balance, the technical financial and the financial responsibility with what you're doing, on the nonprofit side, which is, in the inclusive and being people oriented, so far, as you said, taking care of your communities and making sure you bring, this balance that they need.
So what's very interesting is a lot of time people hear the word finance, they get scared because that's money, that's investments, and people tend to shy away from that. Well, the beauty in the role that I have is I'm deputy treasurer. Is I manage a program called Maryland 529. And if anyone knows about 529 programs, I don't know if they have them overseas, but in the US, it is basically giving families the ability to, by investing their own money into plans, so they're able to send their children to college. And everyone knows that when you are able to have access to education, it's like the sky's the limit. So a lot of the times people feel like, oh my God, how am I going to go to school? Well, when you have vehicles like a 529 program, what happens is it could be a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, whomever, and they can actually put money in monthly. And the money they put in monthly, it's actually into an investment account, and it grows over the course of time. For instance, my son, he's 12. His grandmother got him one when he was 10 days old. I'll be honest, wow. I didn't know what a 529 plan was. So, I cannot be holier than thou. So here it is. I'm representing a program where I can admit I did not know what that was when my son was born. And I am not the only one who doesn't know what it is. And for me, I look at it as doing the work that helps people. And when you have such a program as 529, I'm very passionate about getting the word out to not just, people who live in my neighborhood or in my state. It has to do with people who are disadvantaged, whether they're disadvantaged due to something economically, something in regards of race. It could even be geographic reasons. And because of that, it's kind of a great way to level the playing field by actually having a program where it makes college more accessible to everyone. And to me, again, that's empowering people by giving them access to education. It's empowering people where sometimes you could be the first person in your family to go to college. And it's also empowering people, showing that, you too can take the reins over your life by investing in a program that allows for you to save for college. And hopefully, you would use that, whether it's to go to a 4-year or 2-year. And more often than not, what we're seeing it vocationally, whether it's doing something with HVAC, something with a certification, which also allows you to be an entrepreneur. So, it is a great program because it really allows people from all walks of life to have the ability to send their children to college, and the sky's the limit. They can actually take that degree and they can empower themselves, their families, their communities, the state, and the country. So I see the parallel between that and nonprofit work, because again, with nonprofit work, you are empowering people who can sometimes be a part of a demographic that doesn't have access to certain resources. So again, I get to be that mouthpiece that can go and say, hey, you know what? There are these resources and tools over here. You're not forgotten. You are important. You have value and you have a voice. So that's how I see the intersectionality between, managing a financial program for this state, for Maryland 529, because it's empowering families, empowering communities, empowering the state to make sure that people can go and live their wildest dreams and be able to do whatever they want to do in life, career-wise. And then in conjunction with that, on the other side of it, you have your nonprofit. You're using whatever the nonprofit provides to give them tools and resources to maximize whatever it is that they would like to do in life at the level they are currently, and they can expound upon beyond and do wonderful things. So that's how I see the humanity in both of the things that I do, considering one's political and then one is a nonprofit.
And it is important, and and it's really powerful work. Like you said, education is at the core of everything. It starts with education, and then you go to another level, which is the financial freedom, which is key, because if you don't have this financial freedom, it becomes very difficult. You are at risk of getting, and we've talked about just earlier. I had a discussion on human trafficking, and that's when you're so desperate, you start to to take anything, and you end up being trafficked, or you end up in a journey that you didn't really want. And that's important to have this balance, those tools, and in the private and in the government, and balancing this to be able to empower the communities wherever you are, or even globally, as you mentioned. So you also mentioned about the aspect, the political side of things as well. So as an elected delegate of your party, you carry the voice of your community, and to the national stage, and what does courageous leadership looks like in today's politic climates, because it's really a difficult, very difficult for community to find themselves and to be encouraged to really even be part of it. And yet we really need, as citizens, to understand what's going on, and really be part of it. So what do you do to encourage people? And obviously you talked about education, to be able to understand what's going on, and really boost the morale for them to still be present.
Well, what I can sit here and say is I live in Prince George's County, Maryland, and Prince George's County is a majority Black African-American county. And what we all have in common is we have ancestors who at one point, they were disenfranchised and they were not given the opportunity to vote. They fought very hard so they could have the right to be able to go and make sure they could vote and make sure that their vote matters. So for me, I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors, and I'm very, very, I'm very proud of that. And I make sure that I let people know that our ancestors fought very hard to get us to the point where we could be able to vote and our voices could be heard. And even though things look dismal right now and, they're uncomfortable and a lot of people are losing hope, we cannot sit here and we cannot just crawl into a ball of defeat. We have to continue to fight, because they fought some things that we probably would never, ever be able to fathom. And for me, I talk about we need to gather strength from that. We owe it to our ancestors. I mean, even in other countries, there's been revolutions. There's people fighting for their rights to vote, for their voices to be heard. So it's not just here in America. We all have some ancestry that has said, you know what, we too deserve to be looked at as a whole entire human. We do deserve to have our voices heard. We do deserve to be represented. And because of that, we cannot forget that. That is paramount. So whenever I hear anyone saying, oh, votes don't matter, it's so bad out here, I'm sure we could not spend a day or an hour in what our ancestors had to endure, whether it was in this country, whether it was in the Caribbean, whether it was in Africa, whether it was in India. We've all had to fight for our rights. So for me, I make sure people don't forget that. And the one thing that I always say is, because again, I do a lot of work in finance, I say your vote is your currency. Think about it. You have all these politicians running around asking for your vote because they know that vote matters. That vote is allowing them to get across the finish line and for them to be able to become elected in whatever they are campaigning for. So when they get up there and they're asking for your vote, that's precious gold. You know what I mean? That is like rubies and diamonds. And the fact that they're going to come to you asking for it, you need to make sure that you have all the information you need about the candidate, about whatever the interests are at the time, and you have an educated decision. So when you go cast in that currency, your vote, you're doing it for the right candidate based on what your interests are and what's the best for the people in totality. So I always tell people, don't sit here and say votes don't matter, because when you're sitting up late at night watching them count those votes and you'll say, oh, well, this person's only 1,000 votes behind or 100 votes behind, that's a vote. That is currency. So for me, I let people know we can't let our ancestors down. They have fought too hard to get us where we are so we could vote, so our voices could be heard. And being in my community, I'm very big in making sure you are educated on who the candidates are and what their voting records are. And on top of that, are they representing what you want them to represent for you, your community, your county, and your state, and more like in a bigger like way of looking at it, your country. So I am a president of a Democratic club called South County Democratic Club. And, we make sure that we educate the people in the community about the candidates and their platforms. And we also make sure that we show up so we can help people sign up so they can make sure that they're able to vote. There's seniors who are in, assisted living. We make sure that their votes are able to get cast. There's young people who say, you know what, voting doesn't matter. So you need to go to those young people and make sure they get to the polls. So whether it's someone 21 years old up to 88 years old, all those votes matter. We must not give up because of what we see, what's happening today. Like I said, our ancestors fought so hard to get us where we are. And for me, I'm very proud of that. I have a grandfather that didn't get past 5th grade. And for me, I look at the fact that in 2025, I am a granddaughter who has gone to college, been educated, ran for an office to be a DNC delegate, with Kamala Harris in the last election. And again, that may not have come out the way we wanted to. And yes, it was really hard for us to, sit there and digest what had happened, but you can't give up. And, I know that we're going to talk about adversity, what have you. You always got to be able to overcome adversity. There's always going to be a speed bump. And sometimes, you got to just push your foot on that gas and roll over that speed bump and go on the other side, because on the other side, that's the destination you want to be at, where the goal is. So for me, in a nutshell, everyone must remember your vote is your currency. Your voice has power. And you got to remember what your ancestors did to get you here. And that to me is a source of pride and a source of passion. And that is what I make sure that I express to those in my community so they understand how serious this is.
Powerful message. Your vote is your currency. And people have to remember that's actually how you get hurt, and as you clearly see, if you don't vote, nobody knows who you are, nobody knows what you want, nobody's really can help you. So you have to act and go and cast your vote and talk, just go and ask for what you want and get educated. And I really appreciate the fact that you still need to have this a process going on, educate people about what's going on, about the candidate, about understanding how they can actually use their vote to get where they want to be. So we will take a break on that. And for all the people joining us just now, we are talking about how you balance actually how you go beyond the limit of your responsibility with Courtney. And we are in the US today. So if you we really want you to get all the insight. And if you can get paper, anything to write on, to remember, because that's really a lot of good things that it's a lot of good things have been shared today, and I hope that you will use it to go to the next level of your greatness. But let's have a break first, and we will be back with Courtney after this break.
I'm from Hammond, Louisiana, which is about 30 minutes outside of New Orleans.
Our end thing is love, community, and never forget about the people that paved the way.
Art is the only medium to help us understand that there is a lot more to life than fight.
Whatever you do in your personal life trickles into your business life. And a lot of times people fail in business because they have not succeeded in life.
I want to be able to be contributing, one of those guys that really are doing significant work to better the lives of people.
Every change is linked to a consciousness raising, and change is conscious. And if you want to change something in your life, start with your breathing. Start to work on your breathing.
Leave something for people to learn from. Make a video, write a book, teach, go around, teach the younger generation or the next generation to help them become or follow the path that you've been.
So we are back. We are back with Courtney, and shout out to Janelle again and the She Exists team, one of the sponsors here who made this show possible. And I really wanted to switch now just to understand a little bit more about, your work in the nonprofit, sphere. So I understand that Mustard Seed Mom, which is your nonprofit organization, was born from compassion and action. And so, what has inspired you to create this nonprofit organization, and what impact does it have to on the families raising children with disabilities?
That's a great question. So Mustard Seed Mom was something that I came up with because it really resonated with a lot of things that have occurred in my life. So I'll get personal for a minute so people kind of understand the reason why I'm so driven. In my early 30s, I was told that I couldn't have children. So for a woman, that is absolutely devastating. So at the time I was married, and my ex-husband and we were like, well, maybe we should try. And I'm like, no, let me go and finish grad school. It'll be okay. So I was finishing my graduate degree, and one day I found out I was pregnant. And I was very, very excited about it, but I couldn't tell anyone for 5 months because my pregnancy wasn't considered viable because my placenta was bleeding. So it was bittersweet. I was very excited to be pregnant, but couldn't say anything until after the bleeding subsided. So once that happened, and my son was born, I began to notice some things that were a little different with him. His speech was delayed, and he was very sensory. My son got kicked out of probably anywhere from 7 to 8 daycares. They even said my son was a monster. And that was a very, very hard thing for a mother to hear, because you're not seeing your child as a monster. You're seeing a little boy who's trying to ground himself because he's having sensory overload. So he'd be jumping off of things and running around. And that's not exactly what a monster is, but people were very harsh about it because they didn't know what was wrong. So I did go, and I took my son to go see his pediatrician, and we got him tested, and they said that he definitely had a lot of sensory issues. So when that happened, we got him some supports. So when all this went down, my husband at the time, he decided he didn't want to be married anymore. And that's very crushing to a person who just had, this miracle baby, and was just very excited about being a mother and being a wife and being a family. And now you're about to be divorced. So while going through the divorce, I had to start all over again. I lived in a beautiful home, had wonderful things. I had to move out, had to start all over again, had to move into an apartment. I was making 6 figures. I actually became a teacher at a time because it was for 2 reasons. One, I really wanted to understand education, because here it is. I had this beautiful little boy that God blessed me with, but I had no clue about how it would look like for his, educational development, considering there were speech delays and sensory. So I became very passionate about understanding education, development, special education, and just understanding more about, what my child was and how could I assist him. So that's why I made a career change. But in making a career change, you go from making 6 figures to 47,000. That's a drastic, decline. So when that occurred, I really knew that I had to fight tooth and nail to get myself back up where I was previously. So when that occurred, I decided to make it my mission to advocate for my son to make sure he got what he needed. So a lot of people don't know there's this thing called FAPE, which is a fair and appropriate education. And because, my son was going to public school and he wasn't able to access the academia within the classroom, he would have to have an outside placement. So I had to learn all types of acronyms like, IEP and whatnot. I mean, I'll tell people it's an alphabet soup. There's so many acronyms that you have to learn when you have a child that has, and I say an exceptionality. I don't like saying disability. Disability has a negative connotation, like something wrong with someone. I like to say the word exceptionality because they are exceptional, and it doesn't have that negative connotation. So I would rarely say anything, whether it's my child or the next child, I would not say, oh, they're disabled or they have a disability. I put a beautiful spin on it and I say they have an exceptionality. So I had to learn how to not only figure out how was I going to help this little person that God blessed me with and I really, really wanted to him, but also how was I going to help his mama? Mama was struggling. Like, I wasn't getting any sleep. I wasn't able to go out and do anything because to get babysitters when you have a child with exceptionality, it's very hard. And, when you're a single mom, divorced, you're not making as much money, simple things as getting your nails done, it's really hard to come by. Simple things as getting a babysitter so you can actually take a nap. I've actually had to hire babysitters for 2 hours just so I could sleep. And a lot of the time, people take that for granted. So I founded Mustard Seed Mom because a lot of time people want to do these grandiose things like, okay, here are these kids with exceptionalities. Let's go get them a coat or let's buy them some shoes. No, that is not going to work because what happens is a lot of the time when you're giving to people, people feel like you're looking down on them like it's charity. So I learned my first lesson when I called myself giving out, Christmas, clothing, giving out coats for the winter, giving them food that I had purchased. And I said to myself, I wouldn't want that. I want to have pride and autonomy to buy my own things because people are already looking at you like, okay, well, these people are in need. Just take what, take whatever, we have left over. I decided to use empowerment by giving gift cards. So what happens is I give gift cards to a family. The family can be any size. And once they get the gift card, it would be for something from buying groceries, buying clothing, buying toys, and all the gift cards are different. And what I found in my second year of my nonprofit was people were so happy that I was getting testimonials, and you can actually read them on www.themustardseedmom.com. It's there where they're thanking me because they're saying my child got to go and pick the toy that they wanted to get. Or I was able to go and pick the food I wanted for my children for their Thanksgiving. Or my son was so happy that he was able to go and take the gift card and purchase something for his little sister. So that is when you're giving people, they're feeling pride, they're feeling happiness. You're empowering people to say, you know what, I may be in need, but I'm able to make my own decisions about what I want based on what was given to me through charity. So already, like I said, that makes people feel so good about themselves. Nobody wants a coat, even though it was bought in love, that was picked out from somebody else. But if you allow them to go pick out their own coat, it just makes people feel so much better and so much more empowered. So I'm very cognizant of that because people already do kind of like, give a negative connotation to people with exceptionalities. And I want to make sure that what I do is not only if I'm giving something for charity, I'm also giving them empowerment. And that is very, very important. And for me, when I had to, realize that here it is, I'm a single mom, divorced with a child with an exceptionality, I kind of felt broken down and downtrodden because I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't making the money I was supposed to make. I'm having issues trying to find daycare for my kid because a lot of the time, they didn't have specialized care for him. So I've been through a lot and I'm able to understand the plight of other parents, whether it's a mom or a dad. And these days, it could be grandma or grandpa for raising these children because I've been there. I know what it's like. And even though I have fought adversity and I brought myself up from the bootstraps, I still have some of the same things that they have because, it's not easy being a single parent with a child with an exceptionality because you're not only the parent, you are a person who is a caretaker. And my son is a high functioning child on the spectrum. So he's not someone that who can't take care of himself, but there's some things about him that I need to make sure that he has supports for. So the one thing I can say to you that's very powerful is there's a statistic in Psychology Today that says that parents who have children with disabilities, and again, I say exceptionalities, have the same stress level as a soldier in active combat. Could you imagine being in active combat?
Wow.
Could you imagine that? We're not trained to go to war. I mean, I can't even lace up regular boots. Could you imagine me lacing up combat boots? So people don't understand that this demographic of people, their parents are going through lots of stress. And unfortunately, a lot of the time when you do have marriages and they find out the child has a disability, the father leaves. So that's why you see such a large proportion of women raising children. Sometimes it can be more than one child with an exceptionality on their own. And again, you can go like fact check this, the same stress level as a soldier in active combat. And I have no idea what that's like, but what I can sit here and tell you is I have persevered, I have fought, because the one thing I know is this: nothing is going to keep me down or my son or any other child down is I am able to provide and give resources and tools to them. So for me, the more I can fundraise, the more I give to those families in need, because I have something in common with them. I'm still living the same life, even though, like I said, I pulled myself up and I'm able to take care of myself, but I still have the same stresses. Today, I had an IEP meeting. I had lunch. My lunch break today was me attending a virtual IEP meeting, and I'm advocating for my son. I have to pay advocates to show up to make sure that my son is getting everything he needs at the state level as well as a federal level. And then after that, I got to go and make sure everything's coordinated. So he has OT, he has speech, he has music therapy, and so much more. So the reason I can sit here and say that I'm proud to be standing here today is because I know what it's like to be a person who is a mother and a caretaker before being a deputy treasurer, before being a DNC delegate, before being a president of South County Democratic Club. I'm a mother to a young, beautiful little boy who has an exceptionality. And my job is to make sure that I get him what he needs so he can be successful inside of the schoolhouse and outside of the schoolhouse and being an independent person who's contributing to society.
That's very, very inspiring. And, you are so strong. I mean, like you said, you have to play so many roles. And I love, the fact that you don't use disability with the children with exceptional ability, because it is, it is what it is. They have, they have greatness. They have greatness. But, sometimes because we compare them to, a certain, typical, the way children develop normally, we think that there's no greatness that can come out of them. But if we get, to know them and work with them, we can see this greatness coming out. And, one question that I have, because obviously, there's a lot of resilience, a lot of faith, a lot of perseverance that you have to play those, this role, to be a mom always on, it's like a 24-hour job just to make sure you empower your son. So during those moments of uncertainty and adversity, because obviously it's not easy, what really keeps you going? I mean, how do you manage, how do you take care of yourself? When do you take care of yourself, and how do you take care of yourself? How do you keep moving?
So I will sit here and say this. I know this can sound cliche, but this is absolute truth. I have a very strong faith in God. I pray. The reason why my nonprofit is called Mustard Seed Mom is because everyone knows that you have to have faith as small as a mustard seed. And to me, I could sit here and say, people said that my son would never be able to answer questions. They said my son would never be able to talk. And even more interestingly enough, they told me he'll never be able to operate a mouse on a computer. I did not believe any of that. And today, my son not only operates a mouse, my son is able to do things on the computer that I cannot even do. And he was never taught. My son, he goes to a music academy and he plays piano and takes voice lessons. Again, this is someone they said would never be able to talk and would never be able to answer questions. So for me, I have very strong faith. Again, I mentioned something about basically standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. I am very, very passionate about making sure that every generation in my family does better than the next. And I mentioned how my grandfather, he went to the 5th grade, he joined the military, he lied about how old he was and joined the army at 15, went to Burma, and he was in the military. Then he came back to the United States, and he actually was one of the first supervisors, still in the military, at West Point, New York, as an African-American person. So I'm looking at someone who was an orphan and only went to the 5th grade, and there's no reason why I cannot do 15, 20, 1,000 times more than him, because I owe that to my family. I owe that to myself. And I owe that to other people who had to overcome adversity. So I'm very passionate about making sure that those before me, I do better than what they had, because they didn't have the opportunities that I've had. You know what I mean? They weren't able to go to college and, you know, do all the things that I'm doing. So I'm just proud to be, you know, here today and saying that I get my inspiration and I get my source of pride from my family and my ancestors and other people who I'm not even related to who've had to struggle and overcome. So that sounds, you know, very like I'm sitting on a soapbox, but that is what, you know, empowers me. Now, when it comes to rest, listen, a lot of times people say, oh my God, what do you do to rest? Do you go hang out with your friends? You know, do you go to a party? No, I do not. I stay home and I put on my velour sweatsuit and, and I watch Netflix. I'm just being honest with you. That may not sound glamorous, but for me, my velour sweatsuit and Netflix or whatever streaming service of the day, that is what I'm doing, because I have a lot of different, you know, pots on the stove. And sometimes you just want to decompress and just do nothing. And I think that is my fabulous way of doing nothing. And also, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a great return and investment. I don't have to pay too much to just be able to watch a streaming service and be in a velour suit. And I think every person has to decide, what does their self-care look like? But for me, just being able to just decompress and just kind of zone out and wonder, what are those Real Housewives of Potomac doing? You know, it's always good to look through another lens and have entertainment. So like I said, that is how I decompress. I have a very strong faith in God, but I'm very big on making sure I honor my ancestors, because they did not have as much opportunity as myself. And I'm sure you probably can relate to me as well, and other people around the world. And that's what really empowers me. And I let everyone know I am a fighter. I'm not going to give up. I may get tired, but I'm going to get back up again and keep fighting, because that's the only thing to do. You owe it to yourself. To me, I owe it to my son, and I owe it to my community, because I know that I may not know who is listening to me today, but hopefully I'm inspiring someone that has the same struggles, for them too, to also realize that they can fight and keep going. And it's okay. There's going to be days where you have the Kim Kardashian ugly cry. There's going to be days where you don't want to get out of your bed because you're so tired, everything hurts. But you just have to regroup and push yourself. And remember, you always have that faith as small as a mustard seed to continue on to greatness.
Fantastic. And that's what it's all about. You know, you have to put things in perspective. Like you said, you know, just check how far you've come. I mean, you can compare, like you said, compare with your ancestor, people you have around you. And that's just giving you, the full picture. And you just realize, you know, you can go on and do better. And I really like the fact that, you know, to recharge, you just be with yourself, get to know yourself, get to recharge yourself, because the thing is, when you go out, there's a lot of energy that you lose again, so it might actually deplete you more than, you know, recharge you. So that's definitely something that you want to do when you're really tired and really exhausted. So really good. And I hope, you know, this is so inspiring. You know, you're so inspirational, and I hope that, you know, whoever is watching will really, you know, take on board all the lessons, you know, learn and be inspired by your journey. But we're going to take a break, and then we will come back for the last part of the show. And for those, you know, joining us, you know, we are joined today by Courtney, and we've been talking about, you know, her work, especially focusing on, the nonprofit work that she's doing and how she's empowering not only her son, but the communities around her, and, how, the different tools and, strategies that she's been using to keep going and to keep, and expanding this work so far. So don't go anywhere, and we will be back pretty soon.
In today's global energy landscape, local content isn't just a policy, it's a strategic imperative. Local content, key enabler for energy projects in emerging markets, by engineer Dr. Mireille Tulakima, offers groundbreaking insights into how local participation can transform energy development. Discover how strategic local content approaches can. Number 1 is driving the economic growth. Number 2 is building a sustainable local capabilities. Then another one is creating a meaningful employment opportunities. And the last one is enhancing the project success and community engagement. Written by an internationally recognized energy expert, this book provides practical strategies for governments, investors, and energy professionals. Whether you're in energy policy, project management, or economic development, this book is your roadmap to understanding local content's critical role.
So we are back with Courtney, and it's been an inspiring conversation. And, if you miss, the beginning of the show, you will have the opportunity to, to go back and watch the recording, and there's going to be a rebroadcast as well next week. So don't miss out. It is very important for you to get, the message, and to understand, to be inspired about what she's achieved, and how, a leadership, and especially a resilience, and how she's empowering people in her community and around the world. So for, Courtney, what I realize is that, you're doing an amazing work, an incredible work. And I was thinking, when you think about your legacy, not just professional, because obviously there's a lot going on as well, but the human impact that you're having, what do you hope people will say about you in 20 years from now?
Wow, 20 years from now, what I could sit here and say to you was, I would hope people would say, you know what? Not only was she someone that listened to us and she was a voice for us, but she actually did what she said she was going to do. it is very important that when you tell people that you're going to do something, is that you follow through and do it. So for instance, with my nonprofit, I always make sure that I give twice a year. And I promised I would give twice a year. No matter how hard it is to go and get the donations and make sure it happens, I gave my word. And when I give my word means something. So I would want 20 years from now, or however it would be, not only does she care, not only does she do what she says she's going to do, she's somebody that we can count on to be our voice when people aren't looking to us to have a voice. So that is what I would want my legacy to be. And, to even expound upon that, I'm also someone where I would want people to know that I actually understand, because I've gone through adversity. And I think that has made me who I am today. If I did not have that little wonderful boy, and if I did not go through the struggles I have gone through, I would not have the compassion or the empathy or the passion to help others. Because I can admit, I had a pretty good life. You know what I mean? Like I came from a very good family. I didn't miss out on anything. But I think that God knew what he was doing when he gave me my son and made him exceptional, because it really did show what I was made out of. And here's something else people don't think about. With my son, my son has to get up every day at 5:30 in the morning and get ready to go to a school that's an hour away, that is for children with exceptionalities. That's hard for me to do at 44 years old. My son is 12 and he's doing it. He knows automatically it's time to get up. He makes his bed. He puts his clothes on. And he has a can-do attitude. Yes, my son knows that he has something that is exceptional about him, but he's a fighter, and he doesn't give up. Now, yes, he does get on my nerves sometimes because he keeps asking for an iPad and going to Popeye's Chicken, but he's a kid. That's something else. But for me, the reason I bring up my son is because a lot of the time when not only the parent is going through something, the child is going through something. So I'm seeing my own son overcome adversity. And I know he's going to end up being something amazing. And I know that he will be a part of my legacy because I was able to be a voice for people who didn't have a voice. And I was able to promise and tell people I was going to do something to make sure they have what they need, because I have the empathy, I have the compassion, because I have gone through what they have gone through. And I have the follow through to do so. So that's what my legacy would be 20 years from now.
Fantastic and so powerful. And wow, how can you be insensitive to all of this? Is just fantastic. And Courtney, thank you so much for gracing this platform today. Thank you for your resilience, your wisdom, your authenticity, your service, and for your unwavering commitment to uplift communities. And also what you're doing with your son is just amazing. Your journey reminds us that leadership is not about just being or just about position. It's really about purpose. It's really about courage. It's really about courage beyond beyond the title. And that's what we've been talking about all along, beyond whatever people see. And that's very important. So how do people connect with you if they want to continue to learn from you and continue this conversation? Obviously there is a limit here that we have, so but people can always reach out and continue to have the conversation with you. So how do they reach out to you?
I'm sure. First would be my nonprofit website, which is www.themustardseedmom.com. And then there's area where you can contact me. Of course, I'm in LinkedIn, which is Courtney Finklea Green. I'm also on Instagram for the Mustard Seed Mom. And then I also, I'm happy to say that I started a Substack called The Seeds of Possibility. And you can find that on Substack, of course. And it's basically just talking about different things that I've gone through, having a child with exceptionality, just being a woman, understanding what it's like to overcome adversity. And I find it to be very therapeutic writing about these things, because there's so many good things you have going on in your soul that needs to come out because it can impact and inspire other people. So everyone, don't forget, you can subscribe to my Substack, which is the Seeds of Possibility, Courtney Finklea Green. And I'm just very excited, just to like meet everyone. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm very responsive. And I also want to say thank you so much for having me on this show. I mean, you're talking about the greatness of engineering. You're not only, helping people like connect with like-minded people who are inspirational and doing wonderful things, but you're also a light worker. You are a change maker. You are somebody that you are showcasing people that can do amazing things in the world, that are allowing those to realize, you know what, I can do that. Or why not me? Or as I mentioned in an article recently that I was featured in, sometimes you're going to be scared and you just got to keep going, even if you're scared, because on the other side of being scared is your goal, is the success. So anytime I'm doing anything, don't think because I have on my red lipstick from the Lip Bar and my hair is perfectly curled that I have it all together. Inside, I'm going, oh no, oh no, oh no. I'm scared the whole time. But like I said, I don't give up. So to everyone out there who's listening, this is an amazing platform, because I'm sure everyone who has come on your show has the same type of strength I have, which is not giving up when it's hard and not giving up when they're strong, and just to keep going. And that is what is so important. As my grandmother said, keep on keeping on. And that is something we can all live by.
Fantastic. And you're right, don't give up, never give up. This platform was actually born when, I was on the low, and it has, when I see how it has evolved after 6 years now, it is just, amazing. And I would have never done it if I didn't, go into, this low phase of my life. And so that's important to say that, never give up. Those obstacles happen for a reason. And you just have to focus on how, what is the reason behind it? How can you get some positive, from the situation that, that's challenging you right now. So to the audience, this was a really inspiring conversation. If today's conversation inspired you, I encourage you to reflect on how you can engineer greatness in your own sphere of influence, building on what was shared today by Courtney, because at the end of the day, this show is for you to go to the next level of your greatness. So until next time, this is the Greatness Engineering Show today. And again, that's where leaders are built, impact is international, and legacy is designed. So go and design your legacy, and be back, because we will be back with another episode of the Greatness Engineering Show next week. So join us again, and I hope that you're going to enjoy it. And thank you so much, Courtney, for your insight today, and your wisdom and your inspiration. It is, greatly appreciated. And so enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm starting my day here in Perth. It's Saturday already. So I just gonna, it's just the best way to start, my day, my weekend. So inspired by you. So thank you very much. And we stay in touch.